Hey everyone, been talking a bit about ham radio the last couple of sessions, but it occurs to me that Black Friday is coming up, so it's a good time if you've got somebody out there who is geeky, likes the technical stuff, likes to experiment, to think about what you could get them. Now, I know ham radio operators have a certain people have a certain impression of ham radio operators. But you have to remember that we have our own satellites. We can bounce a signal off the moon. We can talk to the International Space Station. We can bounce a signal off a raindrop. We talk around the world on radios sitting in our homes without the need for cell towers or repeaters or any other method between our radio and their radio. It's a great place to experiment. It's a great place if you like science, if you like technical things. It's a great hobby for you. Bear in mind, not an inexpensive one, not overly expensive, but not an inexpensive one. And you have to get your license. Once you get your license, then it's a question of getting what radio you want to get. And the prices range tremendously with radios into the thousands and thousands of dollars if you want the really high-end stuff. But you can get away with a lot cheaper than that for even making good connections around the world. The FT8 that I've gotten a 6,000-mile connection running a digital mode. The other thing is we have digital modes. It's not all voice. It's not all Morse code. We have digital modes that will work even when signals are weak. There's one called Whisper that is designed to work even if the human ear isn't picking up the transmission that's going through. It's supposed to be able to pick up the transmission and decode it. So there's a lot of things in amateur radio for people like that. And if you are somebody like that and you've already got your license, then I want to make a pitch for the emergency radio services. So the amateur radio emergency service is designed to help the community. You're helping your friends, you're helping your neighbors, you're helping your loved ones. It has a lot of different purposes that it can serve. Boston Marathon, those were ham radio operators down there relaying the information back and forth for the marathons. It could be as simple as doing health and welfare checks in and out of a particular area. Now, bearing in mind that ham radio operators cannot transmit anything encoded. All right, everything is in the clear. Everything has to be legible. We can send things in digital mode, but again, it's not an encrypted digital mode. It's just a regular digital mode. And that means that certain checks and things like that are going to be rather limited in the amount of information that's going back and forth. But knowing that your loved one who's in a disaster area is okay is important. And that's the basic check that you're going back and forth on. Is the person okay? So think of what that means to somebody who is outside of the disaster area to know that their loved one is okay. You might be called upon to help out a shelter. When donations come into a disaster area, typically they're put in a warehouse type situation. And that's just because they want to go through it. They want to make sure that they've only got what they need, right? You don't want a bunch of stuff that you can't use. And that way it comes into one place and it can be divvied out to wherever it needs to go. So you may be a ham operator there at the warehouse taking in these requests, or you may be a ham operator at the shelter putting in the requests. And again, most of that's probably going to be digital mode, because talking through a list of things, just look at your grocery shopping list and try reading that off and see how long it takes. In the meantime, you're a warehouse and you've got all these people that might need things, and you're tying up the radio for that at length of time. You might be called to help a police department talk to a fire department. Not every area has radios that can talk to each other. Some of them do. Bennington's one of them. They have their individual setups, but they can flip a switch and then they can talk to each other. That's wonderful. But I'm in Vermont. Vermont has areas that are just dead space, and you have to have something in between those intervening areas in order to broadcast. One of the things that you can do is set up a mesh network. Yes, ham radios have mesh Wi-Fi, had it for years, and the mesh Wi-Fi that we have has a different range to it and other restrictions to it because it's running off of our ham radio licenses. Similar to a radio-controlled pilot or any radio control operator at all. If you ever see one out and they've got their controller and they've got a black flag on it, they're a ham radio operator. It means they can use different frequencies and they can use more power than anybody else out there. Same thing applies here with the Wi-Fi. We can use more power. We can get more range than you can off a normal Wi-Fi. But you're bridging a gap between an area that doesn't have a signal and an area that needs the signal. And you're doing a relay between the two. The American Radio Relay League, that's its purpose. The national traffic system is broken into regions across the country, and it's for passing radiograms, as they're called, back and forth. Short little things, 25 words or less, that just get sent around from place to place. It could be a welfare check. And the reason it could be a welfare check is there are some things that are not encoded, but just shorthand that can be used to be sent from place to place that allows somebody to say, yep, I'm okay. Right? Hey, I'm checking on Bob. Bob's okay. Very simple transmissions back and forth on things. So there is a large quantity of work that could be done during an emergency and a limited resource because everybody who's doing it has to be licensed. So the first thing is we need licensed people. The second thing we need is to train up those licensed people with some very simple courses that they have to take. They're FEMA courses. It's just how the command structure works for an emergency situation and a couple of other supplemental things that go with it. That gets you enough that you can be deployed. You could, in theory, be in the thick of things, right, in the middle of the disaster. Most likely, because you don't have the information to do an assessment, for example, you're going to be on the sidelines, but you may be listening to a radio while somebody calls those things in from the field for you, and you're taking the stuff down. Again, being a ham radio operator and being in the emergency service does not limit you to ham radio. That other radio that you're listening to could be a GMRS radio. It could be a text message coming over the phone. If the phone system is still semi-functional, at least text messages to get through, it could be that. You could be sending a fax message from a shelter to the warehouse because the landlines are up, power's still up, but the cell towers are down. So you're sending things out that way. There's a lot of ways you could do it. And even if the cell towers were up, honestly, you're not going to want to do a shopping list of stuff that you need over the phone either. But there's a lot of things in the emergency service and a lot of help that we need there. And again, not everybody's going to be in the field or in one of these shelters or something. If you're running a net, if you're a net control station, then you could be at home, away from the disaster, away from the chaos that's going on, because your job is one thing only, and that is to keep the net clean. People are talking not over each other. People are getting their turn to talk. People are being able to get their information out. People are being heard. And all of that stuff's being logged. And as a net control station, that's your job, is to make sure that that net is running efficiently. And being in the middle of things is probably not the best place to do that. And if you're in the middle of things, odds are you're doing something else as well, so that makes it doubly a poor choice. If you're working a shelter and you've got health requests coming in and you've got shelter requests going out, how can you rerunning a net? It's just too much stuff. But that means we need bodies. We need people who are trained. We need people who are capable of going out and taking care of things and being able to handle the communications. It requires a certain amount of strength and focus to be in a chaotic situation and think clearly and respond appropriately through that, keeping your sanity, keeping your temper, and just staying focused on the task that you need in front of you in order to help out your neighbors. So that's what I got for you guys this week. I will talk to you all next week.